All right, folks, how we doing? Welcome into another review of another exciting week of high school football. I tell you, this week, another great slate of games, but this week, one thing that's different, a lot of points.
Right.
A lot of points being scored. And maybe the most points of the whole week. Actually, it is most points of the whole week. That goes to Mr. D.C. Reeves in our game of the week. Tate having their 30-year anniversary of their state championship and hosted Crestview.
Yeah, I was thinking about I might become an offensive coordinator because last week I had 57-21 Catholic. This week I've got 41-33 Crestview. I'm averaging about 70-something points a game the last 2 weeks, so I'm obviously some type of good luck. But yeah, Crestview. Tate had a huge second quarter, 27 unanswered points after falling down 14-6. They were able to run that little double wing that they run so well. They ran it perfectly. I mean, they had Crestview on their heels. Everything was going right. Got a turnover, scored at the very next play. Kicked a field goal right at the half, 34-yarder, after forcing a punt and using some timeouts. Drove it down just far enough to get Mancuso to be able to take a 33-14 lead at the half. Second half, they couldn't hang on. I mean, they struggled. It was, I think Crestview made some adjustments, and they were able to get in there, really get Tate off their game, what they couldn't do in the second quarter, and actually, lo and behold, Crestview has an onside kick with 56 seconds left to actually get the ball back and try get an attempt to tie it. Tate falls on it, ices the game. That's 41-33. So, you got to be happy with the second quarter. You got to be happy with the win, as Ed Rigby said. But, at the end of the day, that's really not the way you sort of want to do it. But anyway, great game, tons of points. But you had some points yourself. You had Catholic 42, Navarre 21, and a lot of big-time performers, as we saw.
I tell you that, the one performance that stood out the most came from wide receiver Devin Dukes, 256 yards receiving and a touchdown. It was a 63-yard on the first play of the game. It was a flea flicker on Catholic's first offensive play. But then you had Sean White dominating the game. He had 345 passing yards, 37 rushing yards, 4 total touchdowns, 2 through the air, 2 on the ground. And I tell you, he just looked great. He made time. He got receivers open by scrambling around. When he wasn't able to find anyone open, he went ahead and gained some yards. And it wasn't that Navarre played poorly. It was just that Catholic was that good. They are a legitimate team, and they spread you out and they out athlete you, and
Right.
they can do that as long as they're playing their tempo of game. They're not going to get tired, and they're going to be able to keep the starting 11 in there on both sides of the ball, and they're going to be able to dominate you.
Yeah, they really looked like a number 2 team in Class 2B.
They really did. And, that defense, really impressive. The first drive, Navarre drove down and scored easily. It was 7 plays, 65 yards, and a touchdown. After that, 7 more possessions of the first half. 35 yards for Navarre total offense on 24 plays.
Wow.
They had 2 first downs after that first drive, but both of them were by penalty. So, Catholic really just locked down on defense. Very impressive first half, cruised in the second half, come out on top 42-21. So, that's kind of game you need if you're Catholic to go ahead and boost that confidence, because you're getting ready to go into district and you have the Waltons of the world who hung tough with Navarre last week, actually, had the lead until the end of the game. So right. you got to have that. But, speaking of over that way, our Pine Forest Eagles traveled over to take on the Niceville Eagles, right. And, they almost pulled out a squeaker.
Yeah, I've covered the Niceville Pine Forest game the last 2 years, and I've predicted it right every time. The Eagles have won every time. Give me the drum roll. So yeah, obviously it's a great game. Great, right. It's sort of becoming a rivalry, even though these teams aren't in the same district anymore. 28-20. Niceville won it last year at Pine Forest. The year before that, it was 31-28 in a last-second nail-biter. Pine Forest went and stole one at Niceville. So. Another great game, another tight game, 17-14. Niceville gets it, but really the story for Pine Forest is the fumble issues continue. They lose 3 fumbles, including a crucial one as they drove with the game tied, in the fourth quarter, or it might have been late in the third. But again, another tight game that it gets away from them. And who'd have thought? We're looking at Pine Forest 1-2, but that tends to happen when you play the schedule that they play. You imagine that it's a young team that has young guys, playing key positions. Rashad Lee is a sophomore quarterback. You've got a couple other junior running backs that are meshed in with Luchez Purifoy, who's obviously a fantastic player. So you would imagine they're going to get better each week, especially as district play goes, as they get that experience. But,
absolutely.
A tough nail-biting loss there. you never imagine Final Fours being 1 and 2 at any
Right.
point. But hey, the games really don't matter. It's they're just sort of tests for that district play to get started up. And one of the teams will be facing district play is Pace, who now has looked really good for the second straight week, beating Fort Walton Beach tonight.
I tell you that Fort Walton Beach, you don't know if they're really struggling or if Navarre and Pace are that good, but Pace went out and dominated them tonight. I believe they led 27-0 at the half. Yeah, Richard Carrion goes out and just owns them for 150 yards or so. But you've also got 2 passing touchdowns from Devin Varney, both of them to Patrick Maddox, who I believe is a sophomore. So you gotta look at them and think maybe they've got the talent to make some noise in that class or in that district 1-4A. But yeah, dominating performance from them tonight, and you don't expect Pace to dominate sometimes because you look at them on paper and you say, well,
not a lot of big names,
right.
right.
But man, they are good every year. It's amazing. I'm impressed by that. But a couple of teams who weren't very good last year, and but both showing potential this year. Escambia and Washington, they faced off tonight. Washington's 0-2. But Escambia's 2-0. Both have first-year coaches, and they had a little barn burner tonight.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about a game that was 0-0 with 15 seconds left. I mean, nothing happening. You're looking like 2 struggling teams, sort of a snooze fest. As our writer Chuck Corder put it. 0-0, and next thing you know, the next 13 seconds, Escambia quarterback Joey Cannon hits Shamari Watts for a 60-yard touchdown, 7-0 lead with 13 seconds. It's in the bag, right?
Right.
Except for then they kick to Gary Brooks, who's one of the best returners. With no time on the clock, returns the kick all the way back, 90 yards. Now we're at 7-7. Joey Cannon ends up getting the final score in overtime, the 1-yard run that ended up being the difference. So what looked like a boring game for the vast majority of it actually turned out to be sort of a thriller. And hey, you're talking about 2 teams. You got Washington, who seems to be snake bit by close losses, competing in games early and just not being able to hang on. And then you got Escambia, who just has a little bit of magic on their side almost. I mean, you've got Escambia winning close games, 17-14 against West Florida last week, 14-7 in overtime against Washington this week. They need these wins because they've got a brutal stretch coming up. Really, their final 7 games are very, very tough. But hey, hats off to, who would have thought? I never in a million years would I have stood in front of this camera and said that you had Coach Anderson out there at 3-0 after this first 3 games. So fantastic job by them. Another game. Hey, you're talking about fantastic. We see it every week. This PHS defense. Another complete domination. We're getting their first District 1-3A win over West Florida, beating them 38-7.
I tell you, that's probably going to be a theme there, is getting those District 1-3A wins. Because, what is this, 19 games in a row that they haven't allowed 14 points, more than 14 points to an opponent. So 16 wins in a row. I mean, it's just way more than that, 18 wins in a row.
Right.
And, it's straight impressive. I mean, there's no way around it. This defense is dominating. And this year they have the offense to go with the defense, something that they didn't really have last year. And, oh, by the way, they won the state championship.
Right.
So, you got to watch out for PHS. You wonder who's got something for them. When will they be tested? They had a few bumps in the road last year, came out with wins. Right. So, we'll see what happens.
Well, like you said, you won a state title with a game-managing offense. They didn't really ask that offense to do anything last year. They asked them to please don't throw an interception for a touchdown. Please don't fumble it and give away free points. That's all they asked that offense to do last year. Now this offense looks worlds better. So even if the defense isn't the same as it was, that's sort of okay now because as they start to get to play better opponents, hey, they've got the threat to now be able to put up 35, 42 points. They don't need to win 7-6 in the playoffs like they did last year. So, yeah, another big one. But, this I would be shocked if we see games even within a touchdown of PHS at least for the rest of the regular season.
Absolutely. And, our final game, Jay goes to Freeport. The Royals are struggling a little bit this year. They're low on players, I guess is the only way to put it. They just don't have the guys to get out there and last through a game. Right.
Sort of half jokingly even presented the thought in the newsroom about, hey, if you gave Jay right now one major college football player, would they be able to? You're talking about having 17, 18 players now. You got guys, and as we've said in earlier videos, it's. There's no guarantee that you can't assume that all 17 and 18 are great football players. Maybe they just want to go out for the team. It's their senior year or whatever the case may be. I mean, when you're talking about that few players, that's a lot to ask for them to be going up against a team like Freeport, who's got a Division I caliber player in Nick Ellington, who they went 11-2 last year, had the best season that school's ever had, and that's what we sort of saw on the score tonight, 42-6. Hopefully Jay can sort of rally the troops, what few troops they've got, and try to get scratch a couple wins on the board. But it's going to be sort of tough sledding for Elijah Bell out there, and they're just going to have to sort of get rid of this one, have a short memory and move on. But anyway, like you said, overall, great slate of games, a lot of scoring. We like that. Our deadlines don't like that,
no,
because then it gets us back in this office a little bit later. But no, it's fantastic, and wraps up another great week, 7 games, and I imagine with district play really starting to ramp up here in the next couple of weeks, it'll only get better.
Yeah, Ed, tonight, if tonight's a preview of what the rest of the year is going to look like, it's going to be a great year. Right. And so, from 1 a.m. at the P&J newsroom, we bid you good night, and we will see you Friday for the prep preview. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason Blakeney, D.C. Reeves.